Bun venit la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Ziua se apropie. În minutele care urmează vă prezentăm raportul european de la Bruxelles din martie 2026 din seria de rapoarte lunare de acest fel. Moderatorul emisiunii, Yossi Lempkowicz, îi are ca invitați pe Tomas Sandell, director și fondator al Coaliției Europene pentru Israel, și pe europarlamentarul finlandez Sebastian Tynkkynen pentru a discuta despre reacția membrilor și reprezentanților UE față de războiul pornit de SUA și Israel împotriva Iranului. Vizionare plăcută!
As we record this edition of the European Report, the Jewish world has just celebrated the festival of Purim, the day some 2,400 years ago in ancient Persia, where a young Jewish lady called Queen Esther helped save the Jewish people from Haman plots to assassinate all Jews in the Persian Empire in one day. For Jews in the world, this is very symbolic today because they make the link between what happened with Haman and what's happening in Iran with the killing of the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. So there is a link between the two. In this edition of the European Report, we are going to speak about another war in ancient Persia, which is today Iran, where the Islamic Republic, which has been oppressing its people for more than 47 years, is fighting for its survival after the US and Israel on Saturday morning launched a preemptive strike, which in less than 2 minutes, even 60 seconds, took out the top leadership of the Islamic Republic, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. On the day 5 of this war, which is called Roaring Lion by the Israeli government, and as the war just extended to Lebanon, where Hezbollah is joining Iran in striking northern Israel, we are going to look at the EU reactions to this conflict and discuss where we go from here. And with us in the program today here in the European Parliament, we have Finnish MEP Sebastian Tynkkynen from the European Conservatives and Reformist Group, ECR, and a member of the important Foreign Affairs Committee. And as always, European Coalition for Israel, founding director Tomas Sandell. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for the invitation. Pleasure to be here.
My name is Yossi Lempkowicz. This is the European Report. I will start with you, MEP Tynkkynen. You have been very active recently in questions related to Iran. And already some weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, you asked NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte to intervene in Iran to free the people of Iran. First of all, where does your interest to help the people of Iran comes from, and how do you assess the European Union reactions to the war so far?
There are many reasons to support Iran to be free. I think, first of all, it's about the Iranian people themselves. For decades, they have been oppressed by the regime. They have been slaughtered. Their basic human rights have been taken away. And basically, Iran is a hostage place for 90 million people. So for their sake, Iran has to be free. Secondary, we know that Iran is a proxy operator in the Middle East, so it's destabilizing the whole region. It's causing problems basically in all corners of Middle East, and especially Israel is target of Iran. And Iran is actually existential threat to Israel. Third reason I would say why I want to be in the forces supporting freeing Iran is the link, Iran's link to Russia. So basically, Iran is arming and supporting Russia to go the war against Ukraine. And there are many, many other reasons. Also, Iran has operatives in the European soil, and they're doing their nasty terrorist attacks on our soil. I think the whole world would be safer and better place if Iran would be free.
What about so far the European Union reactions to what's happening?
Well, to be honest, they have been pathetic and hypocritical. So first, when United States and Israel started to attack the strategic places in Iran, all of them were right away kind of saying that we don't want any war, we don't want any escalation, we need to de-escalate, now we need diplomatic solutions. But those diplomatic solutions haven't worked. We have tried for decades this appeasement policy with Iran. But then, when Khomeini was killed, right away what the EU politicians started to say, even the High Representative Kaja Kallas, they said that now this is creating the window of opportunity for the regime change. Can you imagine? First, resisting those actions that are needed, and then when they happen, somebody else does the hard work and sacrifices their soldiers. Then the EU leaders come in front and say that, wow, now we have an opportunity. So I must say, very hypocritical.
Tomas Sandell, already for some times you have spoken about regime change in Iran, which at the time sounded almost utopic, you know. But already on Sunday, we mentioned the European Union reactions, and on Sunday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen spoke about the need for regime change and credible transitions to democracy and freedom. How do you explain this change of policy? Because in the beginning, as MEP Tynkkynen said, there was we're very cautious speaking about the need for diplomacy, and how do you explain this? We have also seen European Parliament President Roberta Metsola speaking about the end of dictators in Iran and calling for a free Iran. How do you? What's your take on this?
Well, maybe I'll start by agreeing what Mr. Tynkkynen said, that it's unfortunate that Europe prefers to have others do the heavy lifting, the dirty work, and Europe sits on the sidelines and wait to see, well, like a spectator sport. But I also think that the European leaders realizes that this is a defining moment to see whether the European Union is relevant on the international stage, because you have to choose sides, and we issue a press release where we called upon the European Union to choose sides. You can't be on both sides at the same time, and this is not the time to stay on the sidelines. So I think that's one thing, and unfortunately we also seen the infighting within the primary EU leaders as to what is the EU line. And when I have an opportunity to commend the EU leaders, I do so, and I've said so before that I admire the stance of Roberta Metsola, the president of this European Parliament. She's been very consistent over the last few months to say that this is something that things have to change. And but as was mentioned earlier, as for the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, she went within 24 hours from speaking about de-escalation to speaking about regime change, and this is a radical shift. And but I also think that the responsible leaders are pragmatic. They understand now, if ever, we have a realistic chance of seeing a different kind of Iran developing. And so far, so good. But things are developing as we speak. And by the time this program is being aired, we may be living again in a different reality.
And we have to say that also, as always, the European Union is very divided on the topics. We saw yesterday, for example, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz supporting the American offensive, while Spain, for example, is on Iran's side. Yeah. So it's typical European reaction.
Yeah. And as for Spain, Spain has been really a matter of concern for a long time, and it should be pointed out that one of the crucial coalition partners for Pedro Sánchez is a left-wing party which is sponsored by the Islamic Republic. And I think this is also a time of, when you have to reveal your cards, you can't play it both ways. And it will be interesting to see, where do we end up after this crisis and after this war.
MEP Tynkkynen, you have officially, and this is the point that today is crucial for this point, you have officially called for the President of the European Parliament to invite the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, to address the plenary session of the European Parliament. This was at the end of January, I think. And next week there will be a new session in Strasbourg. What has been the reaction so far? And can you tell us why do you think that Reza Pahlavi should be invited and not any Iranian opposition leader? We saw yesterday US President Donald Trump saying that he is not favoring Pahlavi as a transition leader. He prefers someone from inside Iran. What's your reaction to this? And do you think that the European Parliament will invite Reza Pahlavi?
Okay, the reactions of my colleagues. So I launched this letter to be given to Roberta Metsola that she would make the invitation for Reza Pahlavi. We were able to collect 35 signatures, and later we got a few more. Of course, in the beginning, it was a disappointment that we got so little support. But then we just decided in our cabinet that we keep on pushing. And in the negotiations concerning Iran resolution that we decided in the plenary, we made amendment that would say that we want to invite Reza Pahlavi to parliament. And then we made sure that we will get the number of the voting to record, and 132 were voting in favor of inviting Reza Pahlavi to parliament. So the support got bigger, but we kept on pushing. I personally met President Metsola and also some other figures, and now it is actually has come out from the news that the European Parliament might be inviting Reza Pahlavi to the Committee on Foreign Affairs. So this has been very rocky road, hard work, but this was for me a lesson that never give up, and it might happen. And when it comes to who should we support, so my opinion is that we should support and give legitimacy and recognition for those people that the Iranian people themselves want that they are led by. And at the moment, it looks like that inside Iran and also very vocally outside Iran with the Iranian diaspora, they all are shouting the name of Reza Pahlavi. Just a little time ago, there were huge protests in Munich, in Toronto, in Los Angeles.
Security conference in Munich.
Yeah, at the same time when the security conference was taking place in Munich. Huge crowds, and basically everyone were calling Reza Pahlavi to lead the transition. So what I think is that the EU should be on the side of the Iranian people and not ourselves try to decide who the figure is. We need to listen to the Iranian people.
And Reza Pahlavi called for a separation of state and religions in the country. And he said that he wants to be a transition leader.
Yes, and he wants to give the decision for the people to decide to what shape the society will be and direction will be taken. There will be petitions. Also, there will be the secular democratic change to the country. And in the Iranian case, we know the country's history, also we know the history of many countries in that region. So usually it tends to be the case that for this kind of situations, they might need a strong leader, because after the regime collapses, there is a risk that some radical forces or Islamic forces would come to power. So they also need strong, unifying leader to lead the transition.
We saw it also in Syria, you know, what's happening.
Exactly.
Tomas Sandell, would you agree with the assessment of MEP Tynkkynen? Do you think that Reza Pahlavi is the right person for the European Union to engage with? And if so, why?
Yeah, 3 points also from my side. First of all, the person as such and the values that he has been, you know, it's very clear by now, all the interviews that he have given in international media, you know, he's one of us. He has very clear commitment to Western values, separation of you know, religion and state, democracy, fundamental rights. So it should not be a problem for anyone, regardless of political affiliation, to support him. Secondly, and maybe most importantly, is that this is not a matter of what we think. And I have the privilege of working with Iranian opposition leaders who have come to the same conclusion, to say that, hey, listen, I'm not a monarchist, but I respect the will of the people. And as Mr. Tynkkynen just said, there's only been one name chanted on the streets inside Iran for these last 1.5 months, and that's Reza Pahlavi. It is expected that some 30 million people came out in Iran after his call to go out on the streets. And what we saw around the same day as the Munich Security Conference, it was the largest ever demonstration in Germany. And that was in support specifically for Reza Pahlavi. Let me add that the police chief of the whole Bavaria, they were amazed at what they said. They said, you know, listen, when we have a demonstration, it's usually a lot of violence. They said, these people, they behaved so nicely, they even gave us flowers. I said, who are these people? So it comes back to my point of values and principles. Who do you want to lead Iran? And I think this really speaks about a person that would be in the interest of the West, and that is respecting democracy. Thirdly, he has a plan. And the IPP, Iran Prosperity Plan, lays out, you know, what needs to happen the first 100 days, you know, territorial integrity, institutional continuity, and providing all the necessary services. So I think all this together makes it very clear that he is someone that the European Union clearly should support.
MEP Tynkkynen, as I mentioned, EU member states have taken different positions in this war. And in the Nordic countries, including your country, Finland, the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, and the government led by Prime Minister Petteri Orpo have been rather critical to the US-Israeli preemptive attack on Iran. And also we heard French President Macron that criticized the US. He says this is against international law. And he also criticized them for not discussing the issue, the attack at the UN beforehand. While Germany supports the Israeli-American attack, what can you say about the Finnish position, as your party, the Finns, are in the coalition government?
First of all, I must say that the fact that Iran exists as a regime at the moment, that is against international law. It's a huge jail for their own people. They have been slaughtered, tens of thousands of them, to the streets, just that because they are protesting peacefully. Also, Iran is attacking other countries constantly, now bombing, even Arab countries. like that Iran exists in this form, that is actually against the international law, and that we should change. Well, then your real question about the Finland's stance. So I must say that there is, of course, the official government stance on the situation, which kind of follows the same opinions what the EU leaders and the EU Commission has been saying, and that is very unfortunate. The government is formed from 4 different parties, and my party, the Finns party, we are big supporter not only for Israel but also for the people of Iran to be free from their oppressors. So our stance is different, and I must say that if the Finns party wouldn't be in this government, so I'm so sure that those statements given by the Prime Minister and President would be much more critical towards the actions of the US and Israel, these strikes to Iran. But we have needed to fight a lot inside the Finnish government to soften down the EPP policy when it comes to Middle East. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Everyone should see that the situation in Iran is black and white when it comes to international law, human rights, and also black and white of what we need to do, because we already know that now we see that what capability Iran already has to strike all around the Middle East, and they're willing to do that. Even though it's US and Israel who are doing the strikes, they're bombing all over Middle East. So what if like US would exist closer to Iran? What if Iran would get the nuclear weapon? We know what would happen. And these are the last moments to actually stop Iran. In some point it has to be done. And what better situation is it than now that Iran lost their friend in Syria, also Venezuelan dictator Maduro was taken away. Iran notices that they are losing friends from the axis of evil. And now that already last summer, Iran was weakened on those attacks on June, and now they have been weakened even more. Warships have been put down. So now is the best opportunity.
And you spoke about your country, Finland. I have to add that it was in, I think, January, the foreign minister of Finland visited Israel. I saw it. It was first time since many years, which is also a good sign. You spoke about relations between Finland, your party, and Israel. So supporting Israel is very important for you.
Yeah, it is for me, and it is also for the whole party, the Finnish party. But the problem is that inside our government there are parties who want a two-state solution while there is Hamas still operating and all of that. So it is a problem for that. I think Finland would have actually already recognized Palestine as a state already on this government period if there wouldn't have been the Finnish party in the government. But we blocked that decision, and Finland is not amongst those countries who have recognized Palestine as a country.
And Finland bought the David Sling anti-missile defense system.
Like bought?
Bought.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that is very, very good system. The leftists try to block that. They don't like that we get these very effective defense systems, but we did that.
Tomas Sandell, would you like to comment on the European reactions to the war? Why was it so difficult for the 27 member states to choose between an Islamic regime that kills its own people and an opposition which want to introduce democracy and rule of law in Iran? Short.
Yeah, that's the obvious elephant in the room that EU 27, and if you look at the broad range of parties, not all party groups support Western values. And we see it now, one particular group here in the European Parliament, they are cheering on the Islamic Republic. And a few months ago, they were cheering for Hamas in Gaza. And in between, when tens of thousands of civilian Iranians were killed, including many, many women. They were very quiet. So I think these are revealing times where you can't really hide anymore or play games. It's very clear where this group are standing when it comes to international law. And as for international law, if you have to do it by the book, it means you go to the Security Council, you ask China and Russia politely, please, can we go to war with your allies? That's international law.
Mm. So, short question to both of you, and I need a short answer because we are running out of time. How do you think this will all play out at the end? Do you think that the regime will collapse? MEP Tynkkynen.
Well, at the moment, this day we are living, things are escalating to the level of that it's actually a very huge, hot war. Things are very uncertain at the moment, and we cannot know what will happen in the future and when this show is going to be aired. But I just really, really hope that these strikes will weaken the leadership of the regime that much that also the people inside Iran, the civilian people, will get empowered so much that they once again take up the streets, and also that the security forces in Iran, they will join the protesters' side, the people's side. That's what I hope. But we also need the recognition for the new leadership, and the more we get that gets us closer to the goal.
Tomas Sandell, short answer.
A regime that kills its own people cannot remain. I'm quoting Metsola and Merz, and may it be so.
That was all for this edition of the European Report. Thank you, MEP Tynkkynen and Tomas Sandell, for this interesting discussion on Iran and the EU's reactions to unfolding Middle East events. My name is Yossi Lempkowicz. This has been the European Report. See you again next month.
Emisiunea Ziua se apropie, se încheie aici. Vă mulțumim pentru atenție și vă dăm o nouă întâlnire săptămâna viitoare la aceeași oră. Sunt Codruța Burghelea, vă spun la revedere și Dumnezeu să vă binecuvânteze!